Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. I'm Dave Bennet, one of the many volunteers here at NACTV that help create programming for our station. I realize you know which channel you're watching us on right now, but we broadcast on many channels, and you could pass on to your friends that there's alternate ways to watch NACTV. We can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030. We're on Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592 across Canada, and online around the world at nactv.tv. We broadcast 24 hours a day. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as by donations from you, the viewers. We appreciate those as well. If you're enjoying watching NACTV, please consider supporting us either by donation or by volunteering. The year end is the end of August, so I'm sure there'll be an annual board meeting coming up in the fall, and you may be interested in being a board member or helping out some other way here at NACTV. Just contact us. We'd be glad to hear from you. 204-476-2639 is our phone number, and the email address is nactv@wcgwave.ca. Well, the news today, Neepawa Banner and Press. This is issue number from Friday, August 25th, 2023. That's today, the day we're actually taping this. And just a wonderful picture here on the front page, A Perfect Prairie Saturday, it's entitled, of a little person with their little pony here. Her name is Harper Dunning. She's from McCreary with her horse Thunder. They were one of the record number of entrants that were at the Kelwood Ag Society Fair on Saturday, August 19th, just last week. In total, there were 65 horses registered for the day. Isn't that wonderful? Additional information, pictures, and so on are inside pages 7 and 9, and we'll get to those shortly. What a great front page picture that is. Well, what's going on in Neepawa this week? Well, the Neepawa Town Council report. I guess we can start with that. This is by Owen Devereaux. The August meeting of Neepawa Town Council. Neepawa gets funding increase for public safety. So it sounds like we're getting some more money. The town of Neepawa has received some positive news from Manitoba Justice in relation to provincial funding. Chief Administrative Officer Colleen Sinshishin has informed Council of a letter the municipality received in late July from the Provincial Government Department. Manitoba Justice has told them that for the 2023-24 season, the amount of funding municipalities receive will increase. The town of Neepawa will get an additional $299,937. That's $3 short of $300,000. That's additional. That's a jump of 28%. That brings Neepawa's total funding for that program to $818,120. The money is distributed each year to communities to aid in their public safety strategy. So how is Neepawa going to use that, I wonder? Sinshishin said this unexpected increase will take some pressure off the town as it had to assist with the funding of new body cameras for officers and other equipment. So that will help in that regard, that's for sure. Next item, boarding kennel suggested. A local citizen has asked council about the establishment of a boarding kennel in the community. Blair Ferguson noted there's interest from many local pet owners on the establishment of a business that could look after their animals when they are away for extended periods. He noted other communities such as Minnedosa and Erickson, for example, already have a kennel in place. Ferguson then asked council whether or not that is something a municipality would pursue themselves, and if not, something they could assist a potential owner-operator in setting up. Council noted the actual operation of that type of private enterprise does not fall under the scope of their governance. However, they did say that they would be open to working with anyone interested in opening that type of business to ensure they meet all the proper zoning and licensing requirements. So there's a suggestion. Maybe somebody's interested in starting up a business. Councillor reports. Councillor Marika Kostenchuk reported the results of the Home Assistance and District, that's HAND, barbecue fundraiser that was held on Monday, August the 14th. The event was able to raise $1,981 from the sale of hot dogs and donations. Well, isn't that wonderful? And the 50-50 brought in a total of $2,860 in total, so half of that would be $1,430 that HAND would have garnered from that there. So that was a wonderful little fundraiser that they had. I know they had some music on the street. I was there and had a hot dog, so we all did our part. That's great. All the proceeds from the barbecue go towards assisting with covering the costs of operation for HAND, which provides support services to seniors 55 plus and persons with disabilities in their own homes as long as physically possible. Councillor Murray Parrott offered an update on meeting between the CAO and Neepawa and Area Planning District, reviewed the North Cypress Langford zoning bylaws. This review will impact Neepawa as the town is enclosed on 3 sides by the RM. Parrott stated there are about 6 pages of concerns which were created in regard to compatibility in the zoning bylaws. He added this is something that is being worked on jointly to ensure it works out nicely for both the town and RM. So work happening in that regard. That's great. On a separate note, Parrott commended EDO Marilyn Crew on the recently held Neepawa Children's Business Fair, and that was in our paper last week. I think you might have read or heard about it. Councillor Yvonne Sisley commented on the tremendous success of the Glow Swim event at the Neepawa swimming pool. She stated it was well attended as 170 children took part. Wow, that's great. The recreation barbecue was held on August the 1st. Upcoming events include What's the Big Idea on October the 12th and a babysitting course on October the 3rd. So if you have grandchildren maybe that are interested in doing some babysitting, put that date on your calendar, October the 3rd. And the Co-op Fuel Good Day on September the 19th in support of the handy van. And I think the handy van interview is being scheduled for this week, coming up on NACTV, so you can find out more about that at that time. Councillor Jason Nadeau attended a board meeting for the Yellowhead Centre. He updated that the board has decided to maintain operation of the canteen. They had been examining leasing it to a third party to operate the service, but I guess they're going to run it themselves or somehow. Councillor Darrell Gerard offered insight into some emergency repairs needed at the Beautiful Plains County Courthouse. He said there are concerns with one of the 3 air conditioner vents in the building. They're also looking into some short-term fixes for heat, specifically the boiler system. Yeah, you got to get the heat working for the winter, that's for sure. Discussions are also underway on the 2024 budget for the building. Manager of Operations Denny Segay informed Council that progress is positive on conversion of the old RCMP building into a training center for the Assiniboine Community College nursing program. And on my way down to the station today, I noticed there was he and Councillor Parrott, a couple of others were on site right there today. So things are going on in that regard. As for the restoration of Park Lake, it's moving along, said Denise Segay. Residents are warned that this is a construction site and is dangerous for walking through. You are warned not to travel into the area where this work is being done. Well, that's all about the town council from the last meeting. On the page 2, we've got a couple of pictures here of some kids with basketball. The title is Little Ballers Program Debuts in Neepawa. Photo are by John Luigi Pito. And see underneath the photos it says the Little Ballers basketball program made its debut in Neepawa on August the 12th at 9:15 a.m. with a set of free sessions. The sessions were held at HMK and covered the age ranges from 10 months to 8 years. That's quite a span. The top picture, one of the session participants is ready for action. And square in the eye of the instructor there with the balls in her hands. What's it say? Ready for action, paying careful attention in her one-on-one with owner and operator Chad Solaire. And above, in the lower picture, members of the Little Ballers crew, owner Chad Solaire is pictured in the middle. Well, another program getting going in Neepawa. People are doing their part. That's great. Oh, I always like the looking back. I'm getting old enough now that I can even remember things that happened 75 years ago. Well, or perhaps. What do we got in 75 years ago? The thundering echoes of a wild, roaring crowd which packed the Neepawa Sports Arena. That's the old arena that's long gone. Last July 31st of 1948, are still dinning in the ears of Tony Evans, former provincial heavyweight wrestling champion and local promoter of boxing and wrestling, and also my Little League baseball coach back in the day. The Echoes have demanded a rematch between the two terrific heavyweight wrestlers from Winnipeg, Oli Badma Oland and Rough and Tough Len Edwards. To silence the Echoes, Tony announced Wednesday that he assigned the two bruisers for another wild struggle on September the 18th. Well, I wonder how that went. At least two families of Neepawa District may look back upon Friday, August the 13th as their lucky day. Well, that was a Friday the 13th, I pick up. Having escaped serious injury, or even death from a violent electric and rainstorm which began in the wee hours of the morning and continued fitfully throughout the day. Lightning cleaved in half the radio antenna on the home of Mr. and Mrs. Boxer Hole of Neepawa, sending its high voltage down the lead wire, which was entirely consumed with the insulating rubber melted. The home of Mr. and Mrs. Boxer Hole, that's across from the Safeway right now on First Street. Nice brick home there. Next paragraph, Ruby, wife of Alan Campbell, who farms between Neepawa and Franklin, has a slightly more personal acquaintanceship with lightning. Oh dear. About to switch on the electric light, a sudden blinding blue flash and a twisting, numbing shock up the full length of her arm was Mrs. Campbell's unpleasant experience. Her injuries, fortunately, were not serious. Well, some things happened 75 years ago. But what happened 50 years ago? Mr. and Mrs. W.A. Drysdale from Neepawa received top honors in the 4th Annual Flower and Vegetable Show, sponsored by the Beautiful Plains Horticultural Society. Well, congratulations belated to them. From McCreary, Mrs. Ethel Wren of Portage passed away in the Portage Hospital on August the 12th, 1973. Mrs. Wren taught school in McCreary for many years, and a great number of our young men and women will have many happy memories of her. Well, that was 50 years ago. And also, about 150 people turned out to a farewell and social evening Monday, August the 13th, that'll be 1973 as well, to honor Mr. and Mrs. Wally Millen, who are leaving Neepawa to make their home in Winnipeg. Mr. Millen was former owner of the Hamilton Hotel here and was an active member of the Neepawa District Centennial Committee and the Lions Club and the Knights of Columbus, as well as devoting his time and energy to a number of other activities. And there's a picture here on the top edge of the paper of Mr. and Mrs. Wally with Gerald Murray. He's silver tray being presented on behalf of the Centennial Committee. Cecil Pittman, Vice President of the Lions Club, also made a presentation. Music was provided by Walter, John, and David Zeke, Vic Murray, Don Sawchuk, and Elsie Bell. Well, that was probably a good evening. Well, we got some adverts at the bottom of page 3. I'll just mention the Roxy Theatre. What are they showing this? Oh, Barbie is coming up August 30-31. So if you've had enough political watching on TV, take your family down to the Roxy Theatre and see something a little lighter. Barbie is showing at the Roxy. And Mission Impossible is showing the next week on September 8 and 9. They're probably looking for volunteers too, so if you're interested in helping out there, because it is a community-run theater, you can contact them probably through their phone number, 476-3716, or just check here at the Banner and Press or the TV station. I'm sure somebody can point you in the right direction to help out there. The Neepawa Drop-In Centre has placed an ad They're looking for people for the winter sessions. Floor curling and floor shuffle leagues begin September the 11th, the week of September the 11th. So if you want to get in on that, get a hold of them. There's a number of phone numbers there. I'll just give you one. Loretta Free, perhaps she would have all the phone numbers. You can reach her at 476-2666, 476-2666. And NACTV, of course, always has a little advert on page 3 about our upcoming shows. And there is that coffee chat with the Neepawa Handy Van that is coming up this week, so you can check that out. And our bingo, of course, every Wednesday at 7 p.m., jackpot now over $16,000. So if you need more information about that, phone the station, 476-2639. All right, moving along. Page 4. Oh, I always loved the Tundra cartoon. Here we have a doctor's office, and an octopus is in the doctor's office. I'm afraid, says the doctor, you're going to need crutches. Well, that's kind of neat. Look at all the crutches the doctor has there. I think if you've got a hold of the paper, count the number of crutches. I think he might be one short. Always funny cartoons. That's by Chad Carpenter. I love those. And Ken's column right in the center this week. I read it. It was quite interesting, so let's have a go at that. Ken says, well, at the end it's a disclaimer. I'll read the disclaimer first. The views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as being the view of the Banner and Press staff. And Ken says, it's a well-known fact that if something isn't growing, it's dying. It's true for people, animals, businesses, organizations, cities, towns, municipalities, and more. People and animals all eventually die, so that is a whole different discussion for another time and place. I'm thinking this week more about businesses, organizations, cities, towns, and municipalities. I have lived a fair amount of rural Manitoba history and studied a lot more. Sustainable growth is essential, or else decline and decay set in. The most common example is towns and villages. An old map of Manitoba will show countless numbers of towns and villages that no longer exist. Hundreds of old farms and farmsteads have also disappeared. So, is there a solution? I believe there is, says Ken. In spite of the constraints that are placed on sustainable growth, there are a great many things we can do. To not do them is both sad and a dereliction of duty, not to mention squandered opportunities. But first, let's look at the things we can't do much about. When it comes to banking, the credit institutions have always been lacking in enthusiasm for rural life. Businesses and farms. Better now than decades ago, but still lacking in vision or willingness towards supporting sustainable growth. Every family has a story or two about great-grandpa going to the bank to borrow $200 for the new plow or mower and being turned down. My wife's dad was turned down by one or two banks, but did eventually get a loan from the Bank of Nova Scotia in Verdon. He became a loyal customer for 60 years, and my wife is still a customer. Unfortunately, though, not too many Bank of Nova Scotia branches are in rural Manitoba to help rural folks with their aspirations. Continuing, banks are one thing, but governments and corporations are another, says Ken. In many cases, corporations are rural Canada's worst enemies. Some corporations are okay, but most have only one goal in mind, and that's to pay shareholders as large a dividend as possible and every quarter. Never mind if they have to distort their original purpose or screw over a small town. They often refuse to acknowledge their mission and needs. Farm equipment and automobile companies come to mind, as many towns used to have dealerships, but no longer. There's a huge move to centralization with companies, and it's blatant in government as well. Many little towns used to have ag department offices, full-service hospitals, and medical clinics, but few remain. So in spite of all the smothering of incentives by governments, corporations, and banks, what can be done? Well, towns, villages, and municipalities need a plan, and many don't have one. They all want to maintain or grow their populations and services, but if you ask what the plan is, you may be met with scarce details or even silence. The first step is for community and elected officials to take is realistically list the advantages. Most places will say they have friendly people, a rich history, and great scenery. While those are all nice attributes, does the area have ample and good quality water? Is there piped water available to land along with sewage services? Does the town or RM have a plan for development, or do they even want development? Is there decent cell service and internet service? Once a plan, or at least a well-worded hope list, is in place, does the community have a way of approaching banks, developers, and local residents about encouraging development? One thing for certain is that projects almost always cost more money and take way longer than you thought. With all that said, every town, village, and municipality should be looking at how to develop more housing. I've heard dozens of stories from people who want to move out of the higher priced and congested areas to have a home that is in a quieter and more rural setting that is hopefully safer than in a city. There are hundreds of underdeveloped lots in rural Manitoba and many unused farmhouses and farmsteads that are begging for a new family to live there. How to bridge the gap between demand and completed home or acreage is a challenge that can't be met by any one person, but perhaps it can be reached by vision and planning. Well, well-written article by Ken this week. Well, we'll maybe move along, I'll have to see what time we've got at the end, come back maybe to a couple of the other columnist stories. Well, let's check the letter to the banner on page 5. What is Neepawa's premium on water safety? Well, I'm going to position the paper here. This sounds interesting. This is written by Bryce Kwiatkowski from Arden. I think I may know that young gentleman. Anyway, I was recently made aware, says Bryce, of a letter penned by the staff of the Neepawa pool. The letter requested that the town of Neepawa consider increasing their wages, as the Neepawa lifeguards are some of the lowest paid in the province. Really? The letter highlighted that when Manitoba's minimum wage increases in October, Neepawa's lifeguards will make a mere 47 cents above that minimum wage. I write this letter to ask the citizens of Neepawa, is this the premium we put on life? Do you think that a person who is legally responsible for the safety and well-being of your child, who has taken several hours of training on rescue and resuscitation techniques, is worth only 47 cents more than someone working in an unskilled job? I was once a competitive swimmer and traveled to both indoor and outdoor pools across several provinces, and not once did I see a staff with more concern about cleanliness, dedication, and work ethic than those in Neepawa. Yet, the town fails to compensate these lifeguards for their dedication, professionalism, and most importantly, their life-saving knowledge. The pool staff are young students. However, they take on far more responsibility than their peers. I ask, if the premium for the challenges faced by lifeguards is only 47 cents, where's the incentive for other young people to take on such responsibility? Rice continues. As students, many on the pool staff face the enormous tuition bills that come with post-secondary enrollment. The current wages paid by the town come nowhere close to what is needed to cover tuition costs, even with additional government funding. I was a lifeguard in Neepawa for 3 summers, and in 2021 I resigned. I am compensated far greater working part-time elsewhere than full-time at the pool. The Neepawa pool staff are smart and dedicated individuals. They are highly employable and carry many transferable skills and could easily gain employment elsewhere. If the town fails to compensate them appropriately, there will come a day when Neepawa will not have enough lifeguards to sustain the operation of the pool. Families will be forced to commute over 70 kilometers for swimming lessons. Campground reservations will severely decline, as many reservations involve children using the pool for lessons in public swim. And Neepawa will see a significant decrease in visitors during the summer months. If the town of Neepawa can budget for a new water slide and build new tennis courts, but lacks the funds to pay their lifeguards what they're worth, the town of Neepawa won't be able to point to unwillingness to work or lack of aspiring young people when there's no one employed at the pool. The mayor and council will learn that the premium on responsibility, water safety, and life is far greater than 47 cents. So, well, that's a well-written letter, Bryce. Thank you for that. Thumbs up, down. I think this is an up. A special thank you to the teachers who gave up part of their summer to foster music, drama, and good fun at the Arts Forward Summer Arts Camp. Also thanks to the 25 students who provided the community with a great musical production on the last day. We laughed, we cried, and we all came away happy. That's by Kathleen Gillis. Here's a picture. Maybe you'll know somebody. I don't think I knew too many in this picture. It's a 1967 picture. It's courtesy of Rick Sparling. It's of the Wellwood Pats ladies softball team. You see Pats on a couple of their shirts there. This picture, submitted by Rick Sparling, features the 1967 Wellwood Pats ladies softball team. And the players were from the Brookdale-Wellwood area. Back row, Margaret Grant Ferns, maiden names I guess are in brackets, Kay McFess, Ann McIntosh Strain, Muriel McKinnon Thorne, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the married names are in brackets. Whatever. If you know these people, you'll know which way it is. And Ann Schick McBurney, front row, Olive Titus, Winnie Titus, Lee, Jean Caldwell, Vopney Thomas, Norma Humston, Cork, and Eileen Graham, Curry. Special thanks to Teresa Parker of the RM of North Cyprus, Langford, for the assistance in confirming the year. Well, I always like to get those old-time pictures in the paper. Remember the people. All right, well, we better move along here. Here's Helen's recipes. Well, come back to one of those if we have time too, maybe. Let's see what was in the RCMP report, though. It's titled Grandparent Scam Starting to Make a Comeback. Oh yes, these grandparent scams. This is from your grandson or granddaughter in trouble and they want money. What's it say here? The report submitted by the Spruce Plains RCMP. First of all, it says the Spruce Plains RCMP have been seeing an increase in the number of fraud-related occurrences. There are people who are looking to scam you out of your hard-earned money. Quite frequently, these people are preying on the older community members. To protect yourself from falling victim to these scams, we encourage everyone to go online to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. Well, that's at www.antifraudcentre.ca. antifraudcentre.ca. There's some good information there. What about the grandparent scam? These frauds involve vulnerable elderly persons being exploited for cash when falling victim to anonymous phone calls claiming their grandchildren were in police custody and required bail money. Essentially, someone posing as a lawyer is calling seniors stating that their grandchild or child has been arrested and requires bail money. They request thousands of dollars. The victim is instructed not to speak to anyone as there is a publication ban on the file. Some basic rules you could follow to protect yourself. If something sounds too good to be true, it likely is. If someone you never met before is asking you to send thousands of dollars to them, it's probably a scam. If someone is sending you thousands of dollars and asking you to convert it into another type of currency, it's likely you're laundering money that was stolen in a crime. If you feel like you're being scammed, please call the police. Neepawa Detachment non-emergency line is 204-476-7340. That's 476-7340. This line is for non-emergencies and will be answered from 8:30 to 4:30. Weekdays, I guess. For all emergencies, they give 911 or 476-7338 for emergencies. But non-emergencies, 476-7340. Speeder of the month. Well, who do we have here? On July 29th, a resident of Winnipeg was pulled over on Highway 16 in the RM of North Cyprus, Langford, speeding at 172 kilometers per hour. Does the dial go that high? And the fine for that was $992. That's over 100 miles an hour, I'm sure. When persons are speeding at such high rates of speed, a serious offense notice is issued, of course. This notice compels the person to have a hearing with the MPI driver fitness, who will determine if your license is suspended or cancelled. During the month of July, we responded to 434 occurrences in the Spruce Plains area. The last few weeks, we took 4 impaired drivers off the road, one of which was during a check stop at Rock in the Fields of Menidosa. Did you know that the police have the authority to put everyone on a roadside screening device? Last week, we received a report of a man uttering threats and pointing a firearm. We arrested the suspect and obtained a search warrant for his property and seized 3 firearms. On August the 11th, the Spruce Plains RCMP were advised of a stolen vehicle involved in an armed robbery in Amaranth. Officers spotted the suspect vehicle, in the RM of Glenella Lansdowne. A pursuit was initiated, traveling 18 miles before apprehending the 2 suspects. On August the 15th, the Spruce Plains RCMP received information that Robert Johnson, age 45, was released from jail on bail with various conditions. Robert Johnson was involved in a pursuit a week earlier where his vehicle tires were spiked just outside the town of Neepawa. Not long after that, we received the information that he was back in Neepawa. The Spruce Plains RCMP found Johnson breaching his court-ordered conditions. He was arrested and sent back to jail. So that's what's happening, some of the things that are happening in the policing here in Neepawa area. Nice to be able to read that. There's a whole page of the Kelwood Fair Light Horse Show results. All the results there. Well, what else is in the news? Oh, Maker's Market makes its mark. This is by Owen Devereaux. The results are in for this year's edition of the Riverbend Makers Market in Neepawa. Organizers of the annual Artisan Showcase report that there were just over 500 attendees for the 2023 event, which was staged on Friday, July 21 and Saturday, July 22. Well, that's a good crowd, 500. Of that number, 34% of the total shoppers who attended over the course of the 2 days identified as being from outside of Neepawa and the surrounding area. As well, 6.6% of people who attended the market stated they were from out of province. Co-organizer and Neepawa Tourism Board member Jacqueline Farrow said that they're happy with the variety of these results showcase, as the market's main goal is to bring in new people and thus new spending into the community. As for the response from shoppers and vendors, Farrow said it's been a lot of positive comments. People were happy with the variety of vendors this year. There were not a lot of similar products. It was easy to shop and people were able to spend more time at each vendor. Food trucks are something people would like to see more of, however, she noted. As for new merchants, they enjoyed their experience and the sense of community we created within the event. This was also a comment from some returning vendors. More vendors in attendance was another comment, and we definitely plan on increasing our vendor reach for 2024. So obviously there was a place, on your form you turned in as to what you'd like to see for another year. So there were a couple of comments, more vendors and more food trucks. Next, for the organizers of Makers Market, next for the organizers of the Makers Market, we'll be finalizing the financial results from the weekend. Money is brought in from admissions, with a portion going towards a notable community-based project or program. For the first 2 years, a combined $8,500 has been raised and donated to the town of Neepawa's community pool upgrades. So that's $8,500, I guess, last year and this year, total. For this year, Neepawa Tourism has selected the Arts Forward Cultural Centre as its beneficiary for all the admission proceeds. Oh, sorry, I was a little confused. So it looks like, or sounds like here, they selected Arts Forward Cultural Centre for this year. Okay, Neepawa DQ serves up ice cream and miracles. There's a picture of the staff, photo by Monero Studios. Another miracle treat day's come and gone. Always a particularly busy time of year for the Neepawa DQ, it was a typical all-hands-on-deck scenario, with staff hard at work serving up ice cream to supportive customers for a worthy cause. Proceeds raised support the Children's Miracle Network, as they always have, I'm sure. Staff had a goal to raise $14,000 this year. That's on this one day, I think. This year's total came to $14,260. So they met the goal, with approximately 40 businesses participating alongside the community. Pictured a group shot of some of the DQ team on Miracle Treat Day. Oh, and here's the theater camp that we read the thumbs up about on the previous page, with 4 pictures of the kids putting on their final program, I guess. Theater camp students, it says, at Arts Forward put all their skills on display last week, Friday, for their half-hour performance entitled I Need a Vacation. The performance included singing, dancing, and acting. A full crowd was present to enjoy their performance. Teachers for the class were Sylvie Tomanico, Angie Weisgerber, Allison Bailey, and Megan Peters Studio. Well, some great pictures. Looks like the kids are having fun. Quite totally involved there. Maybe you had a grandchild or a child that was there. Hope they had fun. And here, just move the paper a little bit here. My thumb's going to sleep on me. This is on page 9. A fun day in Kelwood at the Ag Fair. A few pictures here. It was a full day of activities at the annual Kelwood Ag Fair on August the 19th. There were a variety of agricultural events at the fair, such as those pictured here. Pictures are by Diane Warner, as well as a parade, it says. Pictured top right, one of a selection of flower arrangements that were on display during the fair. Bottom right, one of the parade entries, decorated with gold and blue tinsel. And the other 3 pictures are of some of the horses. A wagon, horse rides were probably given, and horses are trotting along here. Whether they're competing or just on a ride, I'm not sure. And also at the Harvest Sun Festival, it was August 19th and 20th. We have some pictures, photo by Ken Waddell, Christine Waddell, and John Drinkwater on the bottom of the thing, musical magic at Harvest Sun. Above, Alana Lewandowski, Mediatrix of Kelwood, held the world debut of her new collection of songs titled, that's a bit tough to read, Cianalis Toscanoto. Sorry if I mispronounced that, which means longing or homesick. Lewandowski and her accompanying band received a standing ovation for the enchanting performance. Pictured right, Gillian O'Donnell's daughter, Lennon Coronado, is just 3 years old, but she gleefully enjoyed Al Simmons' show at Harvest Sun Music Festival. Top right picture is bluegrass artist from Winnipeg, the Stanley Country Cut-Ups. Had the Harvest Sun Music Festival audience's toes tapping. And bottom right, a couple of little people with their violins here. Oliver and Francis Porteous of Kelwood were among the many featured musical talents at the festival. So lots has been happening, as it usually does over the summer in rural areas. So lots of things you can take in and do. Well, we'll move along. We're not halfway through. We're just hitting the center page here. Well, here's one in the Farmer's Advocate section. The historic Newton Barn soon to be replaced. Ken Waddell has written this. This is the Newton Farm, just a few miles out of town, just a few miles west, and a mile south, where Murray and Don and Newton live, I think, and Scott as well. Okay, let's read it. The old Ontario-style barn on the Newton farm has a long history. According to Murray Newton, who is the second of 4 generations to have now lived on the farm, located just south of Highway 16, quote, the farm was originally owned by George Little, and we believe he built the house in 1908 and the barn in 1912. So that's over 100 years. The Newton family came to the Neepawa area in 1957 from Kelwood. It was owned by Jim Sinclair when Murray's dad, Robert Bob Newton, purchased the farm in 1957. According to Murray, the lumber and posts for the barn came from the Riding Mountains. We understand that the carpenter that built the barn hewed the timbers in the winter, and when the barn was raised in the summer, only one timber didn't fit. Well, doesn't surprise me. They were pretty good craftsmen back then, paid attention to their craft. And all without technology too, I'm sure. The structure was all post and beam construction and was held together using 1-inch diameter wood pins. Not nails, 1-inch diameter wood pins. The story of the barn raising was related to Robert Newton by Pedden Connell, who lived 2 miles east of the farm. Connell rode the timbers up as the barn was raised and apparently lost a finger at some point in the barn raising. Murray said, quote, we have often speculated on how the structure was actually raised and put together, but we don't have a definite answer to that question. As can be seen now, the stone wall on the west side was nearly 2 feet thick, 10 feet high and nearly 125 feet long as it extended to the south of the barn into the hill. The stones would have been brought to the barn by horse-drawn wagons. The mortar would have been mixed by hand and all the stones placed by hand as well. The basement of the house was also constructed of stone. Quote, we assume the hill for the barn was cut back using horses and a dump bucket. The loft floor was at ground level on the west side, making it possible to drive to a team and wagon directly into the loft. Robert Newton and sons, Murray and Weldon, transformed the barn by seasons and stages, from housing cows and horses to just cows and some pigs, and then to all pigs. Murray said his dad would sit in the barn for hours figuring out how to transform the old barn to work more effectively for livestock. There once was an auger feed system installed and an overhead piped water system. To improve water quality and supply, a well was drilled about a mile away and a pipeline put in that yielded ample good quality water. Murray and Weldon added more barns onto the original floor plan and raised pigs farrow to finish. A few years back, the manure handling regulations became so overbearing that the hog operation was closed down, and now the farm, under the guiding hand of Murray's son Scott, grows grain. The 4th generation took up residence when Scott and his wife Candace had a baby boy, Tommy. The barn roof is leaking, and the structure, though still straight and strong, is starting to wear out and will soon be torn down. Replacing it will be another building better designed for the needs of a modern grain farm. Well, that's interesting. I'm sure there's lots of other stories about old barns in our area if people would like to submit them to the TV station or the banner, I suppose. And a couple of pictures, original aerial shot there in black and white. Above picture as it appeared in 1959 with the old barn, the old house. On the left, the Newton barn loft beams as they appear today. And I've been in that barn a number of times. Rotary uses it for storage, and Murray, being a great member of our Rotary Club, lets us keep stuff there, and our books are sometimes kept there too. So we might be looking for a new place. What next? Neepawa police officer medals at the World Police Fire Games. Well, that's great. Constable Devin Drury finished 3rd in his age category, earning himself a bronze medal, which he has in his teeth here in this picture, earning himself a bronze medal at the World Police and Fire Games in Winnipeg earlier this month. I'm sure you heard quite a bit about those games for a couple of weeks in Winnipeg. So this is submitted. A Neepawa-based RCMP officer made it to the podium at the World Police and Fire Games in Winnipeg. Constable Devin Drury competed in the half marathon at the Olympic-style competition, which was held in Winnipeg from July 28 to August the 6th. Drury set a personal best time for the 21 kilometers of 1 hour 31:45 seconds and placed third in his age category, winning the bronze medal. The World Police and Fire Games are an opportunity for first responders from around the world to compete head-to-head in a variety of athletic events. This year's event in Winnipeg involved 8,500 participants from more than 70 countries. It was a big deal. Canada led all countries in the medal count, with 204 gold, 178 silver, and 130 bronze. Congratulations to Constable Drury and all the other competitors on their participation at the event, and thanks to all the active as well as retired first responders for their service. And I'm sure a lot of them volunteered at the event. Nothing nicer than a nice coat of paint. Yellowhead Centre installs and paints arena ice. Yellowhead Centre maintenance manager Tom Lissaway, as well as other building staff and a few volunteers, recently installed and hand-painted the ice, logos and markings at the arena for the upcoming hockey and skating season. This year's look has a classic feel to it, with the center ice stripe taking inspiration from the style used in the old Montreal Forum. The logos are old school as well, using two separate smaller logos as opposed to the one massive center ice marking that have become a bit of a boring standard for all clubs across the NHL. So the logo's upside down as you see it in the picture, so I'm trying to read it. I believe it does have the word Titans. It's the Titans logo. And here's a picture of a ladies softball team, under 17 competition, a magical run to the championship glory. Wow. The banner is Western Canadian Softball Championships, so that's great. What does it say under the picture? This is the photo is property of Lisa Solomon. Several local players played a big part in the success of the under-17 Westman Magic at the Western Canadian Softball Championships in Winkler. The Magic closed out the event with a 12-4 win over Smitty's Terminators on Sunday, August 20th, to lay claim to the title. The squad previously defeated the Abbotsford Outlaws 5-2 and the Lloydminster Liners 13-6 in the playoffs, prior to meeting Smitty's in the championship game. Neepawa's Madison Robertson and Minnedosa's Nevaeh Stinson are part of this year's championship club. Well, congratulations to those two local gals and to the team. Let's see if I can pronounce all the names correctly here as they have them listed. Back row, left to right, assistant coach Tim Whitecloud, Sioux Valley, coach Farron Asham, Brandon, Naomi McKay from Weway-Sakapo, Leah Bunio from Winnipeg, Madison Lyburn from Winnipeg, Sienna McMillan of Brandon, Jesse Henry of Verdun, Anna Forbes from Glenborough, Nevaeh Stinson from Minnedosa, Ali Neufeld from Boissevain, Marley Rutherford from Glenborough, and assistant coach Joel Charles of Verdun. And in the front, left to right, Kylan Solomon of Shoal Lake, Kendall Charles from Verdun, Allie Young from Brandon, Cameron Bowden of Russell, Janae Russell of Winnipeg, and Madison Robertson from Neepawa. Congratulations to the Westman Magic on their impressive run to the crown, it says. And absolutely. It would have been some good ball to watch. It was in Winkler, they said. Okay, well, Page 13 is dealing with the golf. Big picture here on the top of about a dozen young men, it appears. Congratulations to the Neepawa Golf and Country Club as it has triumphed at the second annual Irish Titan Invitational. Irish Titan. Well, that'll be the Titans Hockey Club. Why is it Irish, I wonder? The inter-promotional club event was first started last year and features a pair of teams, one representing Neepawa and the other representing the Killarney Lakeside Golf Club. Ah, there's the Irish. The teams played a round of golf at both courses and determined the winner through a hybrid style of match play. This year, Neepawa Golf and Country Club was able to claim victory, so that evens up the historic results as Killarney won the inaugural event. Well, there's got to be a third one next year, rubber match. They don't list the names of the people here in the picture. I recognize about 2 or 3 of them, so I won't attempt doing that. And also a dramatic end to the NGCC Championship playoffs that were held recently. This is by Owen Devereaux. I'll read the results first here. Excuse me. I think I need a drink of water before I go too much farther. It's not that the information in the paper is dry, but the air in here is. Okay, in the men's results, first place Hayden Delaloy, second place was Mark Kirkowicz, 1 shot back. Third was Austin Gwilt, 3 shots back, and Scott Davey was 4th, 4 shots back. Congratulations to Hayden for winning that. In the ladies section, first was Suzanne Nicholson, second was Lynn Curtis, and third Loretta Free. Don't indicate the shots there. Congratulations to Suzanne for her win there. And in the senior men's, Danny Gillis was first. Congratulations, Danny. Behind him were Jim White, 3 shots back, and Dave McIntosh, 6 shots back. What does Owen have to say in the write-up? This year's edition of the Neepawa Golf and Country Club Championship had itself a very dramatic ending. In the men's category, 2-time defending champion Hayden Delaloy found himself trailing by as many as 7 shots on the second day of the event. Going into the back 9, Delaloy said he had no expectations of being able to make up the deficit. So he decided to just go for it out there on the course with his club and shot selection and see what happened. Quote, "When I got to the 13th hole, I was about 7 back and had just really been playing it safe out there. So I thought, might as well start playing aggressive. So I started hitting the driver on 13 and 14 as opposed to a 5-iron or hybrid, and it just started to pay off. I got a couple of lucky breaks out there and started to gain. It's golf, you know, anything can happen," said Delaloy. And anything did happen. As a combination of aggressive shot selection combined with a few bogeys on the back 9 for the competitors he was trying to catch, combined for an unbelievable finish. I couldn't believe it. Quote, "I couldn't believe it, to be honest, that I had been able to climb back into it. That's just the unpredictability of it all," said Delaloy. So he did, and he, I'm assuming, caught up to Mark Kirkowicz, I guess, who was 1 shot back in the end. As for the ladies category, Suzanne Nicholson once again etched her name atop the leaderboard. This is the second time in the last 3 years in which Nicholson was able to claim bragging rights around the clubhouse. For the senior men's category, Danny Gillis was victorious, shooting a 77. Well, that's the golf then. Golf season's winding down. The leaves are starting to fall out there, that's for sure. So what do we got? We still got a bit of time. A bit on the back, just see what there is. Some letters to the editor, fun and games. Well, I think I'll go back to that page here. Pick up Rita's column. It's always very interesting. I like to read Rita. Starting the cleanup is what Rita's article this week is about. She says, there are parts of the garden that are done for this season, so I've started to tidy their spaces. This cleanup does not compare with the task of reclaiming one's life after a fire or a flood, and so I'm certainly not complaining. What I am working at is simply preparing the soil for next year's crops. I am a farmer, always believing in next year's miracles. Good quote. Our yard and garden were affected by the summer hailstorm. The potatoes, exposed tomatoes, sand cherries, and baskets of flowers looked pitiful in the days following the ice bath. The flowers took a deep breath and carried on, outdoing any early expectations. The vegetables, all soft vines, did not. Oh, we are harvesting produce from these plants, but many are bruised and prone to rot. The apple tree, which every year produces more apples than I can use or share, will have some apples, enough for a crisp or two, providing I cut out the pockmarks. This late summer I've been struggling with accepting that even though there is less garden produce than I expected, I have enough to share. The green peppers, the cucumbers, the tomatoes grow more than we can use. The peas, after I blocked the rabbit, produced an abundance of pods. We enjoyed several meals from the small patch, froze several cups of the green jewels, and I can count the number of times the patch was raided by grands and great-grands. As were the berry patches. The golden raspberries have proven to be the favorite, but the reds disappeared totally as well. We had raspberries for desserts, for evening snacks, for sitting in the backyard, and several pints made it into the freezer. The strawberries were entertainment, finding a few at every hunt. Never enough to worry about, certainly enough to smile about. The cabbage butterflies found my kohlrabi. However, I got enough to satisfy my desires. The green beans were prolific, at one point getting away from me. We enjoyed several steamed beans with several meals, and some got into the freezer as well. Beets were good, radishes spotty, and carrots slow. Corn and melons still in the queue. I've removed the net from the raspberries. Any fruit left can feed the birds. I've removed the cobbled together fence from around the pea patch. The rabbits can feast in peace. Corners of the yard have been trimmed and tidied. When I think of the limited space I have in which to plant vegetables, I'm truly grateful for all the fresh produce we enjoy and share. It is with thankfulness that I slowly clean one patch and recognize that that soil will rest till spring. Today it was hauling the bean plants, some potato tops, and sundry past their prime plants to the compost. My compost bin is close to full, the recipient of kitchen waste and some grass clippings, with a dosage of wood ashes. Every second year I supplement one raised bed with the product of that black bin. It feels like fall, and it feels like fall has come early. Well, I've had a few people say that they think that we might have an early fall. Anyway, what's Helen's recipe here? Well, she's got 4 recipes in here today. Frozen cucumber salad. Sharon's absolutely delicious refrigerator beet pickles. Baked apple slices. And baked cheesy tomatoes. Baked cheesy tomatoes. Sounds interesting. 4 tomatoes, 1/4 teaspoon of salt and pepper, clove, garlic mince, 2 tablespoons of finely diced onion, tablespoon of chopped parsley, 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese, 1/4 cup of grated mozzarella cheese, and 4 tablespoons of fresh basil, chopped. Place the tomatoes cut side up on a baking pan that has been slightly greased. Salt and pepper the tops. Sprinkle minced garlic, onion, and parsley evenly over the tomatoes. Sprinkle the cheese over the tomatoes. Bake in a preheated 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes or until tomatoes are tender and cheese is slightly browned. Remove from baking dish and sprinkle fresh basil over the tomatoes and serve. Sounds interesting. When in zucchini, what is more abundant than zucchini at this time of year, especially those zucchinis that have become giant overnight? Yeah, they do, don't they? Wasn't there yesterday. Canning zucchini in pineapple juice is a unique way to preserve zucchini. Pineapple juice. Did you all know that? Helen says, to safely can this zucchini, make sure to use all the amount of lemon juice. You must use canned, unsweetened pineapple juice and not juice made from frozen concentrate. And you must use bottled lemon juice and not freshly squeezed. The added acidity in this recipe makes it safe for water bath canning. I've made several batches and it keeps its shape in the liquid and the zucchini absorbed the pineapple taste. Very delicious. Huh, how about that? Well, you'll have to get a paper to get all the details or contact Helen if you're really interested. I guess I'm sure she's willing to share. She shares a lot, Helen does, not just her recipes. It's all her talents in the community as well. Thank you, Helen. Okay. Well, on the back page here, Eleanor Rose Memorial Outdoor Quilt Show. There's a few pictures here. Chris Waddell holding the picture in the bottom here. Photos by Chris Waddell, John Drinkwater, and Ken Waddell. The Eleanor Rose Memorial Outdoor Quilt Show was held August 19th in Kelwood. They have quite a weekend there up at Kelwood with a lot of things going on. It was on the same weekend as the Harvest Sun Music Festival and the Kelwood Fair, as we've realized reading the paper. Featured quilter was Christine Waddell of Neepawa, and the other photo lower right, and the other photos are examples of her work. The quilt held by Waddell has been replicated in one of the many barn quilts on display in Kelwood. What's a barn quilt? Well, it says a barn quilt is a plywood painted replica of a quilt pattern. This particular barn quilt was produced by Shannon Desjardins of Neepawa. So in the right-hand picture, if I've got this right, the barn quilt is painted on plywood, and it's the top picture here, and Christine is holding her quilted quilt below it here. Interesting. And a few other quilts being shown off with interesting patterns here. It appears to be a couple of children holding hands in a sunset, maybe. A geometric design, this one here, and the top picture is a lot of the quilts that were hung in the outdoor quilt show. Well, thank you to the Waddells for that in the paper there. Well, okay, we'll just finish up here with, I think this page is here, the Fun and Games at the Minnedosa Fun Fest. It was on as well, August 18 to 20. My, there's lots of competition for these festivals, isn't there? Can't get to them all. Photos here by Owen Devereaux. And the byline says, it was a weekend full of entertainment in Minnedosa during Fun Fest, which ran from Friday, August the 18th to Sunday, August the 20th. The event featured a classic car display, as well as children's entertainment, a variety of vendors, and horse and buggy, and so much more. We've got little animal fair in the pens, car show. That's the Minnedosa Town Hall. It's the clock tower, wagon ride going on. The bottom picture here appears to be over by the little park they have by the old model train unit. Good, I'm sure they had a good time there. Well, okay, I want to finish here with this article by Bill Sierick. Bill is the president of the NACTV board, the chairman of the board. He's been on the board, I know, for a few years. I was on the board as chair, and Bill took that over. Thank you, Bill, for doing that. He's written a letter about Canadian news media is in online lockout. And I'm sure you've heard some of this on local TVs and so on. And Bill has written this on behalf of the TV station. Notice to our dedicated NACTV viewers. In a recent turn of events, Bill C-18 has caused a bit of disruption in news and media in online platforms, which has in turn restricted the distribution of news in Canada through social media platforms. Like many other community news distribution services throughout the country, NACTV has been affected with its social media platforms announcing news, events, and even general postings. As of January 2023, that's past, statistics show the internet was the leading media outlet used by Canadians for news, with 77% going online for news on a typical weekday compared to just 42% reading news in print publications. Further, 59% of Canadian consumers use the internet to get the news at least once daily. Now, to briefly explain Bill C-18 further, it is the introduction of a new bargaining framework intended to support news businesses to secure fair compensation when their news content is made available by dominant digital news intermediaries and generates economic gain. Otherwise, called the Online News Act, this bill received royal assent on June 22, 2023. That's like a month ago, and is now considered law. Unfortunately, the bargaining agreement between parties affected are so far apart that drastic measures have been put in place until a resolution can be made. Distribution outlets have responded to the Act by removing web links to media content in Canada, making it more difficult for Canadians to look up newsworthy items. In layman's terms, says Bill, the communication has broken down to the point where a lockout has taken place. While government works to an agreement with social media platforms, the response has been one to affect anyone who attempts to distribute news or related content in Canada. Through discussions with CRTC and others involved in the television radio industry, this is a situation that many feel will not be resolved anytime soon. Some even feel the situation will get worse before it gets better. While our social media accounts are not necessarily affected directly, the posts on social media have been restricted. For those who rely on social media news, this has become a direct impact. Fortunately, NACTV has been delivering our programming to thousands of homes each night through MTS Channel 301030, right? Westman Communications, that's channel, I'm not sure that's right here. Let's go back here. Westman Channel 17, Bell Satellite 592, or online at nactv.tv. Okay, no, I think there's just a little bit missing there, that's all. Anyway, continue, or via our website, nactv.tv, as well as other popular video streams like YouTube. You can find NACTV on YouTube as well. Go to our website and it's there. While we may not be able to alert you through social media of new programming, this does not affect your ability to provide the content to you. With every challenge comes opportunity for those who seek to overcome. I've heard that quote before. As we progress, we will continue to develop other methods of providing the quality entertainment to our viewers that has us maintaining a top 15% ranking out of over 600 channels broadcast throughout Manitoba. Did you know that? NACTV is in the top 15% of Manitoba channels. That are channels that are broadcast throughout Manitoba. Should you wish to continue to receive media coverage online, I would suggest one or more of the following. Bookmark your favorite media channel's website and go direct to the source for local news content. Call your local media outlet and request to subscribe to their distribution list. Watch for your local news coverage on television or read about it in your local paper. I also invite you all for comments and questions. Should you wish, you can email or write to NACTV, and our email address again is nactv@wcgwave.ca. Our snail mail is Box 1657, Neepawa, R0J180. That's Box 1657. I will review all correspondence received regarding this matter and look forward to your responses. Thank you all for your continued dedication to our community channel. And of course, you can find those addresses and phone numbers during the community announcement section that we broadcast 2 or 3 times daily on NACTV. So check us out there. So thank you, Bill Sirik, for putting the article in the paper. And hopefully our local people will check us out and get their news through us when we're being blocked out by the mega corporations. All right, well, that's a pretty good reading of the news, I think, this time. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my reading of the paper this week. My name's Dave Bennet. Until next time, have a good day.